All right, let's take a minute and give it up for podcasts. Am I right? No, but seriously, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's literally the easiest way to make podcasts, so let me explain. One, it's free. Two, it literally gives you all the tools you need in order to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, which is amazing. Also, the best part, in my opinion, is that it'll distribute your podcast for you. So you can hear it on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, literally anywhere you listen to podcasts. Pretty amazing, and you literally have to do nothing. The other thing is you can make money from your podcast. There's no like minimum listenership required, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, seriously, if you're like into podcasts and thinking about making one, I would check it out because it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So yeah, go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What are you waiting for?
Well, hello and welcome back to Femme Noir. We are a podcast reviewing and analyzing movies written by, directed by, or starring women and discussing their representation pertaining to the industry and what we see on screen. For those of you just joining us, we normally start out with introductions of each other. I'm Serena and got Whitney here with us today.
Hello,
Um,
hello.
we'll do some movie news or like gossip, things just pertaining to the Hollywood industry that's been in the news lately. Um, talking about some of the things that we watched or maybe saw that we're excited for. And then, of course, we're going to review the movie, go over things that worked, things that didn't work. We're going to play FMF, which is a game where we play with the prominent men in the film, basically turning the tables on the idea that like the friend zone doesn't actually exist, and also it's funny because all of us are queer and not really into men that much, so it's just a fun little thing to do. Um, and then lastly, we're gonna rate the movie 10 being perfect. 5 would be like wouldn't watch it again, but like I enjoyed it. Maybe if it's on, I'd watch it. And 1 being should have left it on the cutting room floor. After that, we're gonna end off with some recommendations of movies we think are similar. If you like this one, movies, TV, books, maybe. It depends. And then, of course, we'll update you on whatever's going on here at the podcast. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Whitney, do you have any movie news or gossip that you'd like to talk about?
I have a lot. Um, but what I want to talk about the most right now is Netflix. I don't know if you've heard anything, but a couple years ago, when they were talking about how um, multiple profiles and sharing passwords for streaming services was essentially stealing,
Uh-huh.
and everyone needed their own account, Netflix came out with a tweet that said basically like, "Don't worry, we love you. We would never make you pay for separate accounts. Movies should be for everyone," type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, come to find out, uh, they, like any other big company who only wants profit and money, have decided that they're probably going to be the first company out of all the streaming services to restrict password sharing. Early 2023, they're going to roll out a new pricing plan for people who want to share passwords. And essentially, what that's going to do is you pay a small extra fee so that people who essentially aren't using, I think, the same IP address can also use your account.
Speaking of which, I'm just gonna drop this in the beginning of the
Yeah,
podcast this time because I
and we
know
can also do it
they
at
tend to
the
go
end.
on pretty long. And if you don't listen all the way to the end, you'll hear it now. We launched our Patreon and we are very excited about all of the things that we can do, um, aka merch, having an online community and Discord server where we can like hang out and watch movies together. And we're like really want to do that, but like you guys can just sign up so that we can give you access to our Discord, and also so that we can like just like fund all of these hangouts that we want to have. Like you wouldn't be paying much. I think the lowest one is literally $1.99. Um, but yeah, like it's less than a coffee a month, and it quite literally is just like, hey, maybe pitch in for like renting the movie. I don't know. We would really appreciate it though, so that we can keep doing this. Um, and yeah, and like I definitely have stuff that I can't wait to release merch wise. I've made some stickers for anyone that signs up for the episode for today, the Candyman episode. You guys will get fun um, Halloween-esque stickers that I designed and I'm really excited about. So you should definitely head on over to our Patreon. We'll have the link in our podcast description. If you're on YouTube, it'll be in that description. If you're listening, I don't know, and you like aren't on able to like see that, go ahead and check out our Instagram or our TikTok. It's also in those bios as well. Um, so yes, no, we will continue. I'm sorry, I really had to do that because like almost for the poor, you know. I'm begging here.
Those stickers are really cute. I've seen them, and they're absolutely adorable.
I'm so
So,
excited.
yeah.
I'm like half of me is just really proud that like I made them. Like like they actually look cool. Because like yeah,
hmm
I do have design experience, but like I've never made a sticker before, and then I was like, well, how's this gonna work? And like
I mean, you've got better design
it was
experience than
pretty
I do.
good.
I like I've got movie journals, um, and I drew like little candy in the corner of my movie journal for this movie, and it vaguely looks like candy. So,
You know, I think I made one that's our word work on your podcast, but like it's dripping blood. And then I also made one that's in a bat, like a like
ooh,
a squeaky little bat creature, which is just
I haven't seen that one. I want to see that one.
yeah, it's I'm like excited. Anyway, continue with your movie news.
Um, oh, a big thing that I've been seeing a lot on TikTok is um Marvel Marvel VFX artists
Oh
are pretty
yeah,
much just like running away from Marvel.
yeah. So
Um,
like it's a lot of work. We don't get
yeah.
paid enough.
Well, I know Marvel's part of Disney now, and they
Hmm.
have been for a while. Um, but Disney has always kind of like been known within the industry to just be a terrible company to work for. Like people have called it like Mousekewitz because it's just
Just bad.
terrible. Yeah, they work you to the bone. Basically, the VFX artists are saying, you have us editing movies literally up until the day that they're released. Um, you're not paying us enough. We don't have enough people on the project. We're getting half baked ideas, so we can't give you what you want. We're changing the story after you've already filmed it. Um,
Mhm.
and lots of people are just refusing essentially to work for Marvel. And it's funny because so many of the Marvel shows that they've got on Disney Plus right now, one
Like
of the
rely on
biggest,
it.
yeah, well, one of the biggest complaints people have is the VFX
Yeah.
effects are
Which is
crap.
a huge reason why people didn't watch She-Hulk 'cause they're like, oh,
hmm
like the effects are like really bad. The CGI is terrible. And I was just like, honestly, I could get past that because like everything they
Yeah.
have is CGI, to be honest. And like I keep up with the news, so I knew that like a lot of the artists and VFX people were like quitting, which is kind of funny. But also I'm just like I don't like CGI in general. Like I do really like the practical effect thing. So like when people pull it off with like makeup and like, props and everything, like I get really excited. And it's just like I watched Black Adam the other day, which like
Oh my
just came out. And I have to be honest, like if people aren't just as mad at the character design for like the villain devil person or the freaking like they like rise up these like skeletons that are supposed to be like the dead
Mhm.
They look so dumb. And I was like, if people are mad at She-Hulk, they better be just as pissed at these.
It's so I'm not mad at the people who are criticizing the fact that the, special effects are bad,
But it's like it's not
because
that bad.
because it is, but, I think what people need to do is they do need to stop recording or,
CGI
complaining.
things.
Yeah. Well, they need to stop complaining about the CGI and the special effects, and they need to start complaining more about the work conditions that the artists are in and they have to operate under. Because this isn't something that just started with Marvel. It's been going on since for years. The VFX industry has been exploited immensely. The first time I was aware of it was Life of Pi,
Mm,
which is an absolutely gorgeous film. It's one of my favorite films. Depending on the day, it's probably my third favorite. Um, Beautiful film. Loved the book too. Couldn't put it down when I had to read it for school. But when they won an award for the special effects, the like head special effects guy got up on stage and kind of started going off about how badly the special effects industry was treated, the VFX industry, and they played him off stage. Like they started playing the I think it was the Jaws music over him and like shuffled him off stage real quick so
oh,
that he
that's
wouldn't
rude.
make it political. Yeah.
Well, like even if you do watch the Oscars, a lot of times like they don't give as much streaming or like airtime to the folks that do like
Yeah.
VFX and like special effects. Like
Yeah.
those, like you generally hear about those before people even start watching. Like
Mhm.
those are released like earlier in the day.
Mhm.
And so like
Yeah.
even if they have a speech or something to like say like because I've heard of other like in the past couple of years of like VFX teams that have like won Oscars being like yeah like it's not great like nobody cares about the VFX people
Mhm.
and like they've said it but it's like oh maybe it gets shown on like one clip on Twitter and then it's like
Yeah.
forgotten within all of the rest of the Oscar buzz and so it's kind of like hmm, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I wanna say it's partially it just depends on the films that have been nominated that year, but, I mean, it also happens more often than, um, I think people realize
Hmm.
with, that category, but just with so many others too. I think one year, that I noticed it, there was, I was really looking forward to the costuming, award to see who got it, and I really, really wish I had remembered the film I wanted it to go to, but it didn't win. But they didn't even air it. And I was like
Yeah.
really confused because I had watched a whole bunch of categories I just didn't care about at all. Um, just waiting for the costuming category, and
Mhm.
they just never had it. So by the end, I was kind of grumpy because that's all I was looking forward to for that year.
Yeah, it's interesting, just the industry itself, just like
Hmm.
because it's like those things are the things that, like everyone will tell you, like, oh, it's the story, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, yes, but like that stuff, like the character building, character design, the like set
Hmm.
building, set design, all of that stuff, like, is what makes the story work. That's what brings it to
Yeah.
life on screen. Like, yeah, the actor does a lot, but like a lot of that has to do with like how the makeup department make them look, how they're dressed, like all of that stuff like is so integral to
Hmm.
how the overall thing ends up looking. Like you can't do that with CGI. It's not the same. Like it's just not.
No. The
And
only
so
time I
to
would
like
argue that
not
it's the
have them
same
have that
is for
much
Benjamin Button.
recognition is like
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's something that if you're interested in special effects, if you're interested in CGI, visual effects, look more into that. Look into all the different controversies. Because it's not even just like I said with the Marvel burnout.
Hmm.
Um, the Life of Pi one was they were outsourcing all the work to at the time Canada because it was cheaper.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the United States artists just were getting laid off. They couldn't find work, um, and they just felt really mistreated by their companies. Now with the Marvel stuff, I hear that a lot of that work is going to China. So uh, abuse within that specific part of the industry
Mm,
is bad, um, has been bad, and it's getting a lot more of a voice.
mm,
Um, and it's unfortunate, especially because Hollywood has always just been corrupt. There's been abuse and people taking advantage of people wanting to just be a part of the industry, and people get burnt out and they leave and they have so many bad experiences. And with that specific part of the industry, just with visual effects, CGI, it's fairly new in the
yeah,
history
in the
of
history.
Hollywood. So you'd think that they'd be able to keep it up, to have a good work ethic, to have
Mm.
standards and stuff. But they don't, because Hollywood just chews you up and spits you out. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a strike that goes on soon.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, there's already been so many
Yeah.
within, like, a lot of the film unions. Like, I remember when I was working on, a Netflix, reality show, we had one day where they ended up hiring a couple people, when they were off season, so they weren't doing union work, and they
Hmm.
were like, everyone was like, "Yeah, so, like, how's it going for you? How's it going for you?" And they're like, "I don't know. I think we're striking," like, all of that stuff, so it yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. But those were the big things that I wanted to talk about. Do you have any um, big news to talk about?
Um, Not movie related, not really. That was pretty much what I also was seeing in my news feed.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah.
Wait, I lied. Sorry, I have one very, very brief thing. Um, the AMC Nicole Kidman uh, beginning
Sequel?
yeah, it's getting a sequel. I'm
I
super
did see
excited
that.
to see what it's gonna be, because the first one's kind of like eerie, but like awe-inspiring. So I really hope they
We
keep up
come to
that same.
AMC theaters.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm hoping that they keep up that same kind of tone.
That's so funny. Like I love that that is like was just taken by the internet because like not it's like such a specific thing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like a commercial that like just comes on cable that like everyone can see. Like you have to go to a very specific movie theater and get that trailer. Like
Hmm.
that's so funny. Anyway, um well, I kind of talked a little bit about some of the stuff that I watched last um saw, but I definitely went on like a binge, I guess. I literally watched all of the Scream movies this past week. And I have to be honest, like, wow, the first Scream is amazing. That's just like point blank, like it's amazing. The
Hmm.
rest of them, eh, it's fine. Like they definitely like justify their reason to exist as far as the story goes, and like it's fine, like whatever. Um,
I've only
but
seen the
like if you
first one.
haven't seen the first one, you should definitely watch it. It's so good. I think we should talk about it at some point because it's so good.
I'd have to
I also
rewatch it. I mean, I
watched,
saw it like years ago at a sleepover type of thing.
dude, it's so good.
All
Like I
right, all
forgot how
right.
good it was.
Okay.
I rewatched Bodies, Bodies, Bodies because that one's just like amazing. I think we actually bought it because it's so funny. Um, I watched a lot of horror actually. I watched I watched the first Exorcist, which talk about practical effects. Like, wow, they did amazing. And that child actress, like, oh my god, she's terrifying. I wasn't like scared though, because like I hadn't watched it. I hadn't seen The Exorcist. For some reason I thought I had, and I think I was just thinking about one of the other random horror movies that everyone's like, you need to watch it. So maybe it was like The
Hmm.
Conjuring that I'd seen. I don't know. But I watched The Exorcist and then realized I'd never seen The Exorcist and then was like, well, this isn't new to me. But at the time period, because it came out in like the 70s,
Yeah.
like holy crap, they really did such a great job with like the the freaking effects. Like the
Mhm.
row up and like her head turning around, like they did
Mhm.
such a good job. I was like, that looks better than half the stuff we see today.
Yeah, I call it the Jurassic Park effect.
Yeah, it was like
Um,
really good.
yeah, where it's
So
just
yeah.
where you're so limited on what you can do in post that you figure it
Hmm.
all out on set, and then you get these really cool effects like the head spinning and the throw up.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I like to do personally. Like whenever I make movies, I like doing the like, let's figure out how to make it look real, like in person, and then like, do what I can in post later. But I hate doing things in post.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna always try and do it like in person.
Yeah.
Like while we're filming. But that's just me. And then oh, is there anything else that you watch? Because the other stuff that I watch would actually transition us right into the movie that we're talking about today.
Um, I've I've watched a lot. I watch movies, and TV shows when, I'm working.
I know I
Uh,
finished so much.
but the only thing I can think of right now is The School for Good and Evil. Um, and I actually thought it was gonna be a TV show, and I was really surprised when it turned out to be a movie.
No,
Um
okay, me too. I thought it was a show, and then like it like came up on my Netflix thing, and it just said play. So I was like, wait, that's like
Mhm,
kind of weird though. Because
mhm.
normally if it's a TV show, it's something different. So I was like, is this not a TV show? And then I clicked on it and I was like, this is a movie.
Oh, no, I fully hit play thinking it was a TV show, and then, like, halfway through, I'm like, is it just,
This
like,
is really
seamlessly going
long.
into the next episode? Like, did I
That's
miss
funny.
something here? Um, and then it happened again about, like, three-fourths of the way through, and then that's when I checked. I'm like, "Oh, wait, this is a movie." But I actually really like that. It's very on the nose, about what it's trying to, do and say. Uh, but it's good, it's fun, it's lighthearted. Um, so if you've got time, I recommend that one.
Yeah, I was like, there's a lot of big name actresses in that one too, which I was
Mhm.
surprised. I lied.
Yeah.
I watched a lot more than I said that I did. I actually watched I Know What You Did Last Summer, like
Oh
the original
my god. I
one.
think that was the 2nd horror movie I ever watched.
I watched that one, and I also watched all of Hill House and
Oh, yeah.
half of Bly Manor again. Um, and then I watched the newer show that he has or is like a part of, Mike Flanagan, The Midnight Club, which is
Oh.
like great. I'm gonna be honest. Like it's good. It's good.
I I'm burnt out on spooky. I can't do spooky or horror or scary. I'm done.
I like
This is
crave
my
it.
least favorite time of the year. I am a big old scaredy cat. I spooky stuff makes me feel uncomfortable, especially supernatural horror type of
Mm.
stuff. Can't do it. I'm
I
done.
liked
I'm not messing with
Midnight
it.
Club more than I thought I was going to because I wanted it to be more like scary, if that makes sense. But like watching it, it's definitely more like it's not scary for, like, scary sake, like, all of the stuff that is, like,
Mhm.
creepy or spooky is, like, told from the, like, point of view of, like, the kids, because essentially it's, like, this group of kids that are all, like, on hospice, and
Mhm.
so they all meet up at midnight in, like, the library and tell each other, like, ghost stories basically because in their like, and they say this in the thing is that like making stories is how they keep each other alive and like and like how they're going to continue on after they're gone, and so all the like ghost stories are just based on their like actual lives and just like manifestations of like how they process like their situations, and so it's like a lot less scary. um and then like each like kid, for every story that they tell, they have like a different like style, and so like if you were talking about, like, the idea of, like, horror, um, they still kinda do, like, the subsections of that, which is also, like, sci-fi horror and, like, mystery horror, which is just like, "Oh, there's, like someone was murdered, and we have to figure out who it is, and if we
Mhm.
don't, like, we'll all get murdered." So they do, like, the murder mystery thing, they do the, like, Southern Gothic, like, witch thing, they do
Mhm.
the sci-fi, like, "Oh, no, are we gonna be taken over by machines?" type thing, like, it's pretty neat. Um,
So I would definitely recommend watching that. There's not like I thought there would be more jump scares, but there are not that many. So if you
Sorry,
don't like scary stuff, I think you would like it.
you actually reminded me of a conversation I had with my physical therapist, because we were talking about movies because I was wearing some movie-related T-shirt that I probably got from, like, the theater, and, he was talking about how he likes the supernatural scary movies, the horror stuff, because it's not real, so you know it'll never happen. I'm like, "Oh, I'm the opposite, like, because I
That
know it'll
stuff
never
is real.
happen." Yeah, well, first of all, I agree. Yes, I've lived in a haunted house. I can most definitely agree that it's real, and that's probably why I don't like spooky stuff. Um, but, and I told her, I'm just like, "No, you like, the real stuff doesn't scare me as much as the supernatural stuff."
Yeah, at least the
Um
real stuff I can fight against.
Well, yeah,
If I
yeah,
have a
and that's
chance.
essentially what I told him, and he's just like, "Well, no, like, the real stuff is more scary because, like, that could just happen." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, imagine, like, you're just at night walking around and someone, like, kidnaps you." And I looked
Dude,
at him just like, "That's an
I was literally
everyday during the
talking
day
to
fear."
another person about that. They were watching Hard Candy, and they were like, "Yo, you should watch this movie, Hard Candy." And then I watched it, and I was like, "Yeah, like, that was pretty good." Like, I wasn't that scary, though, and he's like, "Dude, it
Mhm.
freaked me out." Like, she, like, straight up, like, cut the guy's balls off, like, he just, like, got straight castrated, like,
Yeah.
surgic he was like, "That's so scary." And I was like, "Is it? Like, is that scary
Yeah.
to you?" He's like, "Yeah, because like, the way they did it, like, that could actually happen." I'm like, "That could happen anyway."
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
well,
know.
it
And then I literally said, I was like, "Maybe I'm just desensitized because, like, every horror movie is just, like, a woman getting brutally raped and murdered."
yeah.
And so I was just kind of like, "Oh, that's scary for you? Like, I guess now you know how it feels, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting." And then he immediately was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I never thought about it that way." And I was like, "Well."
Dude, I wish my doctor had that moment. He didn't. Like, I tried to, like, because, because he was doing his job, I didn't wanna, like, get up on a soapbox. I wanted to focus on, what I was there to do. But, like, I tried to ease him into it, the fact that, essentially a woman's everyday horror isn't gonna be the same as a man's because a man's hardly in danger, whereas a woman's always on her guard. Um, and it went right over his head.
That's why the supernatural stuff scares them.
Yeah. Yep.
'Cause the supernatural stuff, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, is almost always directly tied to a woman.
Mhm.
Oh, witches? You don't like witches? You don't like the Ouija board? You don't like the nuns? Hmm.
No, Ouija boards are my number 1. If there's a Ouija board
Yeah,
involved
no, I
in
don't do
any
that.
way, no, I'm out. I'm
I'm sorry,
gone.
look, I got family from Louisiana, like, Creole blood family, not touching that.
Oh, I get on my
Uh-uh.
dad's side of the family the Syrian side, oh, we've got
Uh-uh.
no,
Nope.
mm-mm.
Which also I thought was funny when I watched The Exorcist because I was like, "Why is this like, why did the movie just start out in, like, a different country? Like, why was he just in a different country and, like,
I
stealing artifacts?" I was like, "Bro." And then it,
problem
like,
number 1.
didn't tie into the rest of the movie.
Oh. Okay, I've
I was like,
never
"Wait, what?"
so because I can't do that because I just don't wanna watch it, that's not my genre, there's no way I'm going to watch it, I've never seen any of the Exorcist stuff except for one of the Conjurings that I accidentally watched because I didn't, I guess, realize what it was or someone had started it and then I sat in on it.
Mm.
And then by the time I realized what was going on and was happening, it was too late and I didn't want to I forget like I had a reason for not leaving, which basically boiled down to I didn't want people to think I was as big of a scaredy cat as I thought I was or that I am.
Mm.
Um, so I toughed it out, but it was rough, and I'm never doing that again. Next time, I'll just take the scaredy cat route. Except
Yeah.
I couldn't for this movie for
Yeah, you
Candyman.
couldn't.
No, this
Which
is
it's
okay. So
not, like,
Candyman,
super scary,
Candyman
though.
hits on my second biggest. Oh, my number one dislike for this film is that it was too scary.
LOL.
It's literally at the top of my dislike
I'm dead.
column.
I'm sorry. Don't watch
Be-
the original because I
I
watched the
didn't.
original,
I
and that one actually kinda freaked me out a little bit.
I was like,
So
oh.
Ouija boards, number one fear. Number two fear is Bloody Mary, and this is essentially Bloody Mary.
Yeah,
And
it is.
this was a very hard watch, and I first saw it in theaters, because it was Jordan Peele, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I wish I'd
"Oh,
seen
this
it.
is fine, like, I can do this," and I could not.
Well, because
I
he co-wrote it with Nia DaCosta.
yeah.
Nia DaCosta directed and then he produced it.
Mhm.
And this is her first movie. Like
Second.
this was her
It's her
debut, or
second
yeah, her second movie, her
feature
first like what's
debut.
it? Uh like studio movie.
Mm. Mhm.
Because the
Yeah,
first
so
one we have actually reviewed already on the podcast. Little Woods with Tessa Thompson. And she does like thriller stuff, but this is her second movie, and she actually had been writing it for a while. And so it was pretty cool because like she essentially what I didn't know about this movie is that it's actually a sequel and not just like a
spiritual
standalone
sequel,
movie.
technically, yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so for the podcast, like I'd already seen the movie, but I was like gonna rewatch it. And so I decided to also this week watch the original Candyman,
Mhm.
which is it's so good. For those of you that like scary movies, it is
Not me.
amazing. But yeah, Whitney, don't watch it because it did freak me out a little bit.
I had absolutely no plans to, so
Yeah.
that's easy.
But
Done.
it did answer because I know when I watched it the first time I had like questions, and then I watched it, the original one, and every question that I had was like answered. So I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. Like that if I had known, because I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, the marketing department kind of failed on this.
You think? Really?
Yeah, because they made it seem
They
like
did
it
a
was its
good
own
enough.
standalone movie. And so
Well,
like
okay,
no one went back. Like anyone that isn't already a Candyman fan, like would have never known.
me. That's me. I watched it because they did do such a good job that first of all, I didn't even know that there was a first one until after I left the theater.
Well, I think
Um,
that's what I'm saying. Like they did a bad job at connecting it to the rest of them,
it's so
especially since the storyline is directly correlated to the original.
it's not supposed to be though. Like when I said it's a spiritual sequel, like that is in the words of Nia DaCosta and Jordan Peele. Uh, because there is a Candyman 2 and
Yeah, there's a 2 and a
3.
3, and
So
that
it's
is
not
all around the
yeah,
same like person, which is the story of Helen, who is told in this Candyman 2021.
gotcha.
Like,
I
with
will
the puppets. They tell her
even
story in the
yeah,
beginning. That's the when
with
the
the
brother is like,
Rottweiler.
"Oh, wanna hear a
Mhm.
scary story?" Yeah, that's the original Candyman, and it's interesting because in this movie, the way that the brother tells the story is from the perspective of, like, the outside and not actually, like, what actually happened to Helen. So if you watch the first one, it, like, dives into a little bit more, like, they don't call it Candyman or anything, like, they say like, "Oh, yeah, people think it's connected to Candyman," and so it's kind of the exploration of, like, the lore, but still told from the perspective of someone that does not believe in Candyman and does not think that Candyman, like, exists, and I was like, "That's interesting."
Hmm. I'm not gonna watch it. But I did think it was, a standalone movie. Like,
Yeah, so did
watching
I.
beginning to end, I mean, that was probably the reason that I saw it was because it was, a Peel movie. I thought it was a standalone. I didn't think I need context going into it, and then I got into the theater, found that it was far too scary, and I was scared into my seat, and I couldn't move. Um, and I had gone with someone, anyways, and they're actually the ones who told me that, at the end as we were walking out, like, "Oh, yeah, it's a sequel, and it makes so much sense if you watched it." And I'm like,
It really does.
I've got no questions. I've got no questions that would make me watch that first film. I mean, this was
That's
a
so
good standalone
interesting
film.
because a lot of people had the opposite. They're like, "I have so many questions, like, I'm not sure if I like the movie," and then they found out it was a sequel, and then they watched the sequel and were like, "Oh."
So, the okay, I
Like, a lot of the critic reviews were that
yeah.
they had questions.
The only question that I have that you actually might be able to help me, out with is why did Candyman kill the kids?
Which kids?
So you had all the white girls in the bathroom,
Mhm.
and then you had the little girl in the bathroom, and her brother wanted to go in, and then the bad guy was just like, "Oh, there's a witness," and then that's when he made his move on Anthony.
Oh, that's they had all summoned Candyman. Like,
Yeah.
they all, like, said the stuff in the mirror
So
and
so
said
it
to
is
you.
it doesn't matter who it is, like, as long as you summon Candyman,
Yeah.
because the way that the story reads just as a standalone
Mhm.
is Candyman is, it's it's all about, like, gentrification and the violence of,
Mhm.
um, the white, um the white population over the black population and the inequality of all it's a social film.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
it's
the
not and it's not
original
even
one is very much the same.
yeah. And well, and it's not subtle about it either.
Mm-mm.
So when you're talking about, the white abuse of power, you saw it with the gallery owner,
Mhm.
you saw it with like the cops
The critic, the art critic.
and the art critic. And then you have like these just random, fairly innocent kids who also get murdered. And I just I just chalk it up to like, it's building the mythos of Candyman,
Yeah,
but at the
which
same
it's
time.
supposed to because
Mhm,
essentially Candyman is supposed to be like, you don't talk about Candyman. Candyman is who we blame like for like all of the bad things is what people think that Candyman is. And then
mhm,
Candyman is supposed to be the thing that keeps you from doing the bad thing. like
mhm,
because in the first one, there's one kid and they when Helen is interviewing because she's doing like a thesis like just sociologically about like the folklore and how it becomes part of a community and embedded in a community. So she hears
mhm,
about Candyman and goes and explores this Cabrini Green community, and she's like, okay, well, let me like explore why this community is just so like afraid of Candyman. Like, why are they so
mhm,
afraid of him? And it's because everyone's talking about Candyman and they have all these stories and different people who like summon him and like they died and all of that
mhm,
stuff. Um, but yeah, like he's always been like, he'll kill whoever summons him, which is why they don't do that, but then in the
mhm,
original one, there's, like, a kid, and they specifically have a conversation where she's like, "Well, can you do this for me? Can you, like, go over and, like, talk to so and so and ask them to, like, bring me back?" She's like, "I just want, like, a photo," or something like that, like, it's, like, a chill, like, random, like, favor, and he's like, "No, I can't
mhm,
do that. If I go over there, Candyman will get me." And, like, it is supposed to scare, like, it's like the folklore of, like,
mhm.
like, Peter okay, not Peter Pan, the Pied Piper,
Yeah,
"Don't do the thing, otherwise he's
yeah,
gonna get you," kind of a thing.
uh-huh,
And then it embedded itself into the community to the point where, like, in this modern day manifestation of it, the things that have happened, like, Candyman is not just one person, as they say, he says, like, it's the
mhm,
whole damn hive.
mhm,
It's now become this, like, collective thing of, okay, so now we've just been, like, completely mistreated, and all of those people still exist, like, within our collective consciousness, and
mhm.
so Candyman has now evolved into being what he is in this movie, the
Okay,
2021 version. But, like, he still gets summoned and will kill people, like, that
mhm.
never changed.
Okay, so see, that makes sense, but
Yeah.
just simply as a standalone movie, it was odd.
Yeah.
Um,
I was like, that was a question that a lot of people had. I was like, "Well, I watched the original one finally, and it made sense."
it made sense in the fact that it was building the mythos,
Yeah.
but the social commentary that they have going throughout the film was more prevalent than the mythos of it.
Yeah. And
So,
also the baby that Helen, like, if you watch the puppet thing, the
mhm,
baby and all of that stuff, like, the main character is the baby.
Anthony, yeah.
And I was like, I didn't get that the first time I watched it because I was like, okay, I found out, like, later
Oh,
he was the
really?
baby, like, when they said, like, in the thing and he, like, goes to talk to
Mhm.
his mom, and he's like, "Apparently I was born, like, not on the South Side, like, I thought I
Yeah.
was born on the South Side." And then she's like, "No, like,
she took you and whatever, like, I was like, I just thought it was like a separate incident and that he was connected because, like, oh, they had heard about the story and that's why that one dude was trying to find him. And I was like, no, he was like always supposed to be Candyman, which
Mhm.
is also what Helen was supposed to be, which she became. And so I was like, that makes a lot more sense.
Mhm. It that part always made sense to me. I that was fairly clear cut for me, but interesting. Like I said, my one question was just tonally killing the innocent kids was an odd choice.
Mm. I guess it's just excuse and this is probably definitely from, like, a Black person perspective. I was like, if he wasn't the baby, it didn't make as much sense that he was just, like, going along with it the whole time. Like, the
Mm.
whole, like, because like, I'm sorry, there's literally an entire movie about how Black people don't deal with supernatural stuff. They just say,
With the
"Nope."
brother,
They're like, "Nope, I'm not
Brianna's
doing it."
brother,
Like, "We're
yeah.
not playing with it." Like, "That's not a thing." Like, "I
Mhm.
may tell you the story, but I ain't trying to summon no anything." Like, so
Yeah.
I was like, "Why would he do that?" Like, why on earth would he summon Candyman? Like, even as a joke, like, even in the original one, the lady is best friends and working on the same thesis with a Black woman, and the Black woman's like, "I'm not saying his name."
Mhm.
Like, so I was like, why did Anthony say it? Like, why did he do that? Like, what kind of Black person does that? Weirdo? And then I was like, "Oh, okay." The fact that he's the baby and is connected to Candyman makes a little bit more sense. I was like, "Alright, okay, now I get it." That explains a little bit why he was, like, always kind of, like, in this weird trance thing because Candyman is a
Mhm.
trance and all of that stuff, and I was like, "Okay, now I can excuse that he called Candyman."
Yeah.
So I was like, "What kind of bugman is this? Summoning a freaking mirror demon. Dude, you should know better."
Nope. Mm-mm.
Exactly.
Wanna
That is the
know
response you're supposed to have.
I thought essentially I thought, it was all, part of what lent it to being a standalone was the whole movie was like a play, on local legends and stuff, like the razor
Mm,
blades in the candy,
yeah.
the, Candyman being, um, Bloody Mary, and I figured that there were probably other references in there that I just didn't get because I don't oh, and the hook hand,
Mhm.
um, that was, like, another one, like, the local legends and the scary stories you tell at sleepovers or around the campfire.
Yeah.
I thought those were just kind of all woven together, to make the standalone film. Um, so maybe that was also why I just didn't have as many questions.
That's that's cool. Honestly, that would have been a very cool like, honestly, if they just made a standalone movie where they just combined a bunch of urban legends, like,
Mhm.
that'd be kinda dope.
Yeah.
I'd hella watch that.
I mean, this one's halfway there, so I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I
really
will
cool.
according to me, it is there, but, mm.
No, I really like this movie. Did you like the movie, like, just overall?
No. It
Like,
was
if it
li
wasn't scary, did you, like,
Okay, yeah,
just
if you take out the scary aspect, yes.
okay.
It was good. I did rate it high.
Mm.
Um, the cinematography was good, the moral, the
Dude,
themes,
I can't wait to see her Marvel movie, like, when she has got, like, big, big money. Cause like,
the
opening it upside down, the upside down, like, of the cityscape was so cool. And then it just, like, turns back because it, like, totally played on the
I
whole, like,
don't
"Oh."
really remember that.
It's amazing. Okay, so they, like, open it up with, like, the Candyman, like, title sequence thing, and then from there, you see, like, all the names pop up. That entire part is just, like it's almost like an upside down drone shot of just the tops of buildings, but it's literally, like, someone looking up at the sky, and
Mm,
then when it comes down, the camera literally turns around and then focuses on the brother walking with the boyfriend, and I was
okay.
like, "Bro,
Yeah.
that's dope."
Yeah. My number one dislike was that it was too scary. My number one like was the mirror shots.
It was so good.
Um, so I yeah, I mean, like I said, cinematography, that opening shot, all the different mirror shots, I think she did really, really well.
I think it's
The
really interesting too that she did use all of the mirror shots like she did, because
mhm,
like a big thing that we often say about like horror is that there's like gratuitous violence against like women and people of color. And so it was really neat that like you didn't actually like see any of the physical violence like happening, like you just saw the aftermath of it. And any of the actual violence that did happen happened in reflections or like
mhm,
around the actual action of the like violence. And I was like,
yeah,
that's great.
mhm.
Especially if it's a movie that does talk a lot about black trauma. Like that's a great touch.
Okay, I do wanna my likes, I've pretty much all gone over, but I do wanna read all my dislikes in order because I think it's kinda funny because 'cause they're all almost all of them except for the last one are all things that people really like and are all things that you've pretty much said that you've liked too.
LOL.
Um, so as someone who does not like horror at all in the least bit, my top dislikes of this film were that it was too scary. The bees, I'm now terrified of bees because of this movie. All the body horror. So the makeup, amazing. It was too
Dude,
lifelike for me. Yeah.
when his freaking skin was the hive, I was, I can't.
Mm-mm.
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 Mm.
The bee sting, that nope. And it's just how it kept getting worse and worse.
It
Uh,
was done too well.
yes, it was done. It was done too well. Um, my next dislike is the soundtrack, which is also on my like list. I don't like it because it made it scarier, and um, I typically don't like that type of music. It just in general kind of like puts me too much on edge and takes me out of the movie because now I'm just so
Now you're trying
focused
to think
on
about
the
not being
music.
scared.
Yeah. Mhm. And my last dislike is that there's no Chicago accents in this movie. You have a
That's
fairly
fair.
large
That's fair.
cast
There
set
was
in
not one
Chicago
mention
and
of
no accent, not even
yeah,
from a side character.
that's funny. That is true. Yeah, you can almost completely forget that this movie takes place in Chicago. I don't even think
Mhm.
the original one had Chicago accents either, now that I think about it. Because they
I
actually used a lot of
the
the audio from the original one. Like when he's listening to the audio like samples, like those are
Mhm.
literally ripped from the movie.
The baby cry is from the first movie.
It's scary. Also,
Yeah.
fun fact about since you were talking about the bees, they used real bees in the first one, and
Mhm.
Tony Todd, I think was his name, the actor that played the original Candyman. He like negotiated basically to get like a crap ton of money every time he got stung by a bee on set. So
Yeah.
he walked away from that first movie with like a shit ton of money.
I think it was 23,000.
He literally had bees in his mouth.
Yeah.
What in the crap, man?
I mean, it's smart.
That's
It's smart.
dedication.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that. That's disgusting.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't have put the bees in my mouth, but I mean, the fact that he could negotiate that and the fact that they gave it to
The
him.
fact that they gave it to him, a black
Yeah.
man, at
Mhm.
that time, like, dang, you
That's
go.
early 90s? Yeah? I
I can't remember. Let me look it up.
think it's
I want to
92.
say yeah, early '90s.
Mhm.
Which so just like black people getting anything from the
Mhm.
film industry is kind of like a win. So
Yeah. But since we are talking about money, and while you're looking that up, the
yeah,
budget for
92.
this film, yeah, I thought so. But the budget for this film was 25 million, which is fairly standard for a horror movie. And it ended up making 77.4 million. So it got three times the amount it took to make it. So it was a
I'm
pretty big
pretty sure
success.
she broke a
She
record
did.
with this movie, and
She
it's
became
like,
the first Black female filmmaker to have a movie opening at first place at the box office.
mhm, like wow,
Mhm.
her second movie ever. That's just amazing, you know? Like, wow, that's great. And like, she just got a shot because Jordan Peele was like, you know what? That's kind of cool. Like, I'm down to help you out. Like,
Mhm.
me next.
He was down to yeah, he was actually supposed to direct the film.
That's just
And
so
I don't
cool,
know
man.
how he ended up choosing Nia to take over, but, he that's, it's good that she did.
Because now she's doing the Marvels, and that one's got, like, 100 million plus for the
Wow.
budget, right?
There's I
Like,
haven't
what a
looked it up.
win.
Mhm.
What a win.
There's, there's a director and, he's I really wish I could remember his name, but, he, was very he usually did a lot of low budget films, a lot of on-set effects. He didn't use a lot of post, effects, and just made these amazing films. And when I say big name director, I mean like he's like up there with Stanley Kubrick and Hitchcock and
Mm.
stuff like that. Um, and when they finally gave him a big budget, he made this shitty film, terrible. It was like one of his worst films. And when critics asked him afterwards, they're like, "What happened? Like you've got this great track record. Where did this come from?" And he said, "It's because I had money. Because I had money, I just threw money at the problems and
I,
created more
like, know
problems."
who you're talking about too. I can't think of the
Exactly,
name.
right?
Oh my goodness. It's
Um,
fine.
we'll figure it out later as soon as we
Yeah.
stop recording.
You know, man, it
Um,
doesn't matter. I'm just kidding.
yeah. But yeah, he said when he had a smaller budget, he had to get more creative, and that's where a lot of his
Yeah.
on-set effects came from, and that's why it all looks so good.
Mhm.
Um, so I I've seen it happen to other directors where they did small budget films, indie films, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing films, and then as soon as they get a big studio behind them or money behind them, they make a good film. It's entertaining, but it's nowhere close to what they had been making before.
Mm. Yep, we shall see. I think it comes out
Mhm.
2023.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so those were your dislikes of the
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much, said all my likes.
Okay.
Uh, Mirror shots, you don't need to see the other films because it's standalone if you're too scared to watch the originals. Um, I really like the moral and themes with the social commentary that they had.
Yeah,
It was very on the nose, but it didn't take away from the film at
yeah.
all. It
I
it
thought it was
added.
funny actually because I was listening to someone else, they were reviewing it, and they're like, "Yeah, it was, like, really on the nose." And then they also brought up the fact that, like, they literally say that about his art in the movie.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh,
they do.
LOL, that's funny."
Yeah.
Because it's
Um,
literal.
mhm. But it all plays into the mythos of Candyman. It's the whole
Yeah.
reason he's there.
Mhm.
Um, the soundtrack was great. It got me scared when I was supposed to be scared. Um, I like the play on urban legends, and I
Yeah, I really
love.
like the puppetry. Like, that was a
Yeah,
nice touch.
that was really cool. And then my last like was the, character of Brianna, the sister. Or not the
Mhm.
sister. Well, yeah, I mean, she was a sister, but she's also the girlfriend of Anthony.
Yeah. No, she was cool. I would
Mhm.
totally watch a movie just based on her. And,
Mhm.
like, just like, if they were to make another one connected to this movie, like, if she was the main character, that would be so cool. Because she also has had all this, like, weird trauma in her life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just, like, hmm, how would that manifest now that she
Mhm.
is also connected to Candyman? That would be
Dude,
very
I like the
interesting.
end where she's just like when she's in the cop car and she's like, "Let me see
Dude,
my reflection," and they're like,
yup.
"Oh, what a vain person," and then they finally show it her reflection and then uses Candyman to just kill them all.
Yeah, because
Beautiful.
she says 4 of them, but he says the 5th one, and so he kills all of them, and then he goes, "Tell everyone," and it's like,
Yep.
"Mm." And we get Tony Todd as
Mhm.
the manifestation of that version of Candyman that she sees when he says, "Tell
Yeah.
everyone."
Yep.
Just awesome. But yeah, this is probably one of, my favorite, like, horror movies. Like, the first one is, like, insane. It's really
Mhm.
interesting, like, how, because like, essentially in the first one, Candyman is so mythical, he's basically its own, like, religion, and so that's why in this one, when he talks about, like he brings them to, like, that rundown church, to make Candyman like his thing, and he goes like, "I was baptized here," and he's like, "Don't forget the sacrament," and like pulls the candy out, and he's talking in like all these like hyper religious terms. I was like,
Mhm.
so good. But I was like, oh, it's a direct correlation to like the first one because that Candyman, like he is like he talks about like his congregation and like his followers and like all of that stuff. And so I really liked that touch. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of it, to be honest. Um, I also love that actor. I know most people will
Mhm.
probably recognize him from like Euphoria. But yeah, the acting was absolutely amazing. I feel bad sometimes with the main actor, the guy that played Anthony, because I know he played like Black Manta Ray, whatever, in
Yeah,
a
Black
in
Manta.
Aquaman.
Mhm.
But I feel like he just keeps getting like all these like roles in these like movies that are like not good. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, give him better movies. So like I will always watch this one.
yeah.
But that's just me. Yeah. I really like this movie. I do like that they don't show any of the violence against Black people. I think it's interesting that only white people die.
No, the little black girl died in the bathroom.
No, she didn't. She's the only survivor.
No, 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 the other one with the brother who wanted to go into the bathroom to play with his sister.
Oh, but that was his memory.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the memory of the guy that of the dude that like traps him in the church. That's him.
Oh, I did not get that.
That's his
I thought
experience with
oh,
Candyman.
okay. No, I totally thought that those were, like, actual kids, like, modern day, at the
Oh,
time of the story, kids.
and I think it's super interesting, like, because it came out in 2021, which is super, super closely related to so many prominent, like, stories about violence against Black people, like, just in our
Especially from
modern
the
day
cops,
media,
yeah.
especially from the cops. Um, and so it was interesting to kind of end the movie the way that it ended with, like, kind of Candyman being almost like an anti-hero, like savior of this community,
Mhm,
in the way that, like, they were able to weaponize Candyman against their, like, oppressors, which is interesting. Um, but then also that, like, Candyman, even just, like, the story of Candyman and the original is that it's it is born out of the injustices done to Black people, and, I think it's even cooler because the puppetry at the end, when it cuts to the credits after he says, like, "Tell
mhm,
everyone," those are all stories of, like, real life situations of actual people, like, IRL in real life,
mhm,
like, not as, like, a part of the script, like, real life people, that were just, you know, murdered for
mhm.
literally or, like, lynched basically for no reason. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I like that she was able to kinda, like, put it all in there without it being, like, re-traumatizing and
Mhm,
without, like, showing so much, like, violence against Black people and kind of having, like, a little bit of, like, a redemption. Like, even if it is Candyman, like, yeah, he's not, like, a hero, he's, like, literally a villain and, like, evil, but, like, the consciousness and, like, the storytelling of Candyman now being intertwined with all of that, and even, like,
mhm,
the evil guy being like, "Oh, we need Candyman because all this bad stuff keeps happening to us." It's the same thing, like, over and over and over again, and then, like, bringing him back for that reason just because they're like, "Okay, well, yeah, he may kill, like, everyone and, like, you know, have no discrimination against, like, who he kills, but at least we have something that is keeping people from doing, like, these specific things."
yeah,
And I was like,
yeah,
"That's crazy." Because, like, I feel like it also kinda, like, tells just the story of a community that's so desperate for some type of justice because no one is protecting them, that they would go and rather have and be in danger than
mhm,
have the people that are supposed to protect them murdering them, you know?
yeah. It's it's all so beautifully tied in, um, and you don't even have to think about it because,
Mhm.
like we've been saying, it's all on the nose, so you can't misread it, you can't get some um, white proud boy guy saying like, "Oh, that's not what they were talking about," because like they just so clearly state it,
Yeah, it's
and you're just
very
kind of like,
obvious.
you didn't watch the same movie I watched if that's what you
Yeah, like,
think.
the entire conversation he has with the art critic, like, is
Hmm.
so good, and I really wish more people actually, like, talked about this in movies, 'cause I feel like they don't.
It helped too that Cabrini Green is real. Like everything that happened in the movie that they were talking about happened in real life. Like Cabrini Green was government housing. It was
Mm,
uh like the slums as far as I've heard. Um and then it came in, got gentrified, and everything that they were saying happened in the movie, it happened in real life.
mhm,
Um so if
yeah,
it's one of those times where it's not so much art imitating life. No, it's not life imitating art, it's art imitating life.
yeah, and I think it's, like it's kinda I feel like they touched on like a very specific thing that they don't touch on in a lot of movies that are about gentrification. Like, because you'll have like the ones like In the Heights, stuff like that, and
Mm,
like West Side Story, and how they're like, yeah,
mhm.
well, like we're all here, we want to save like our community, whatever. But they don't talk about like just the money behind it and what ends up happening. And I like that they brought that in like immediately. Like
Yeah.
literally, they bring it in. She goes, well, white people built the ghetto and then didn't like it and then like and then they're like yeah and then they bring in other people and then the white brother or soon to be brother-in-law probably the white
Mhm.
boyfriend just goes oh like here and they're just like all right
Yeah.
chill dude.
Yeah.
I was like that's so funny but then like the art critic starts talking about she's like oh well like it's very like your kind and he's like excuse me and she goes artists.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and with the
Artist.
gallery owner too, when Anthony's just like, "This is what I wanna paint. I wanna paint, this struggle in, like, this area that I'm familiar with." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, that's just so overdone. Is there somewhere else you wanna do that with?" And he's like, "What about Cabrini Green?" And he's like, "Oh,
What
that's so
about
much better."
here?
Yeah.
Ugh, so annoying. But like, yeah, that's like always the response. And it's just
Mhm.
like when he says like, who do you think built the ghetto? Like they literally build the ghetto and then kick everyone out and then invite people that are poor and that are like innovators to basically redo all of it just to live there for like cheaper. Like
Mhm.
they essentially rebuild the entire economy from scratch just by living there. All they do is invite them to live there. They don't pay them any extra. They just invite them to live there and they live there for a little bit less than they would be in like the high rise already like established rich neighborhood. And then maybe they'll give you a Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I was dying. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally what happens. And like they don't talk about that enough about how
Mhm.
they will literally be like, oh, and I mean, like, low key, we see that happening like every day. It's, like, even where I live, like, people will be like, oh, well, they're building like low income housing next to me, and I don't want low income housing next to me. And we're just like, what do you think would happen if people could afford to live in a place? Like, if they could afford to live in a place, that means there's less homeless people around. Less
Mhm.
homeless people around means that you can spend more of your money on like beautification of like whatever. That also means that
Mhm.
people that are actually able to like afford living somewhere can afford to use the money that they would have been trying to use to pay for a more expensive rent to actually like contribute even more to the economy, like going to work
Mhm.
and going to like you can't get a job unless you have an actual place of residence. You
Yeah.
can't like do a lot of stuff unless you have an actual place of residence. So once you have a place of residence, like, oh, now I can get a job. Now that I'm making money, I can contribute to the economy. Like what? I don't understand why people are so against that. It's like that
'Cause
doesn't
they're
like it
vain.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. They're vain
It's
and they
like
wanna
yeah,
say,
they're rain,
they
they're
don't.
classes,
Mhm.
they are racist, and it's just like yeah,
That too.
that's fine. Call it what you want. It's still this. That's still what you're doing. You're still
Mhm.
discriminating against people for how they look, etc. It's like so dumb. Anyway, go vote November 8th, San Diego. um, yeah, I do. This is kind of on the topic of the movie, but just in general, I really like that like I know it was a thing earlier on in the history of film where like horror was kind of used as like a societal construct.
Mm-hmm.
Um societal construct as a societal commentary.
Okay, I thought that's where you're
With
going, but
like
I was gonna wait.
with like a was it Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah,
right?
with
And
that's
then
where the black man lives at the end, and then the
yeah,
yeah.
well he's the only survivor of like the zombies, but then the government kills him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it's crazy. It's so sad. But like I really like that we're kind of getting back to that because I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten like there was that just span in like the 2000s where it was just like horror for horror's sake and like tricks and stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like
Well,
cheaper and
yeah,
it's easier to make a horror movie
exactly.
than it
Exactly.
is to make any other type of movie because a lot of it is what you don't show. And so you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to spend a lot of money working on that. You just like write a story and a script and like it can sell pretty easily. And you can make a bunch of them without really having to change much because of like the formulaic whatever. And like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there are like the few that we got that are like really good. Like Scream is really good. You've got like Jennifer's Body, which honestly that one tanked at
Mm-hmm.
the time, but like it's great now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and you know, you get like some of those, but I really like that right now, like we are getting a lot of the societal commentary again within the like artistic form of horror. Like you've got Lovecraft Country, you have Nope, you have
Lovecraft
like
Country is amazing.
Get Out, you've got
Nope.
there's more.
Us.
Not just by Jordan Peele.
Okay, Jordan Peele
Like
is
you
kind
have
of the
Fresh.
only scary movies that I can watch,
Yeah, it's just so
basically. I mean,
sad.
not the only, because I do watch others, but
But like you've got Fresh, you've got Promising Young Woman, you have all these like great horror stuff that's coming out that's like actually doing what horror should be.
hmm
Even like Fear Street. I remember talking about how like even just the whole idea of like, oh, there's this entire community that is cursed and shouldn't be. And then they come to find out that it's not a curse, it's actually like physical, like actual action being taken against them in like a spiritual
hmm
form from the white guy that's blaming it on the like poorer part of his town and on women the whole time. I was like, yeah, like that is what the real horror is. That's the true horror. So yeah, I just think I really like that we get to see a lot of that now, and I really hope we continue this like trend of like really, really like good um commentative filmmaking
hmm
with like horror.
hmm
Because it's such an interesting way to like premise it all. It's less of like a like because you can always make like a comedy and call it like satire and stuff like that, and it can be on the nose, but I feel like making it in the way of like a horror story is just so I don't know, it hits
You'll get a
different.
wider audience too. Because like with
That's
satire
true.
and comedies, people have a lot of assumptions about it, and typically just because comedy is so hard to write, because it is one
Yeah.
of the hardest genres to write, it's not always done well, and it's harder to put in that social commentary without it being cheesy. And even if you call it satire, it's hard to do right because
Yeah.
it's a very fine line between making fun of it and then making it a point.
Yeah.
Um, but with horror, it's such a larger community. You reach a whole lot more people of all ages and demographics, and it's just easier to share and spread that message. Um,
hmm And I feel
so,
like the roots of horror have always been in talking about the
oh,
like
they have.
outside or
hmm
like on the edge like people.
hmm
Like even when it comes to like gay community and like werewolves and like vampires and like just all of that. It's
hmm
always been
Sexuality.
that. Yeah. And it's just like it's nice to like really see it becoming like popular again. Or
hmm
I guess not popular, but like
I mean, I
being
could deal with
popular and
less,
talked
but I
about
like what it's
as that.
doing.
That's just, yeah, I love it.
hmm
It's one of my favorite things ever. Um, yeah, so I guess I don't have anything else to say about the movie. I mean, I probably do, but like I'm not going to because we should get going. Um, FMF. FMF or rate? Which one? Let's
Um,
do FMF.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can't think of. Oh, I mean, you've got Anthony, obviously, and then you've got the brother and his boyfriend, and then you've got the bad guy. Let me pull up the names.
It's the art gallery guy.
Oh,
It, that was so gross.
it
Just
was.
him
He was
in general,
weird.
just him. Ugh.
And the fact that like
Like,
everyone acknowledged, even he ha acknowledged, the fact that he like just sleeps with all the interns.
yeah, that was gross.
I mean, you can do Anthony, the brother Troy, William. I think those were for me, those were
Oh
the
yeah,
top
Burke.
top three, or the most screen time, should I say?
Yeah, those are the ones with the most screen time for sure. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I'll go first. Probably fuck Anthony, marry Troy, and then friend zone William.
I'd probably marry Anthony. Uh, Screw William and just be legitimate, actual best friends
No.
with Troy. Like we would be friends in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not even he's not in the friend zone. I don't know what that is, but LOL, the friend zone, quote unquote.
Well, okay, so
Because also like he's not into me either. So like I don't know,
that's
man. I
fair.
feel like it'd be fine.
Maybe, okay,
Anyway,
hold on. I
that's
think
what I
I'd
would
change
do.
it. I think I'd, so just to have as minimum time with William, overthinking this all, of course, but to have minimum time with William, the bad guy, I'd fuck him. I'd still marry Troy. Because I think, because I'd rather, because then he'd, like, we'd have a lot more fun together in general.
Mhm.
And then I'd friend zone Anthony because friends have your back. And as Candyman, he'd have my back.
Yeah, and like I'm married to him.
Hmm.
And I'm just
I
best friends
couldn't,
with your husband.
I couldn't deal with the bees. Couldn't deal with the bees or the body horror.
LOL. We're protected. We are fully protected here.
Yeah. Yep.
All backs are covered.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So, what would you rate the movie then?
As scary as it was, I still gave it a 7. I rated it high because it is good. It's a good film. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It has great moral, great themes, great cinematography, soundtrack. It scared me like it was supposed to. Unfortunately, I will never probably watch this again after watch along that everyone should tune into.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I rated it high. It's good. I'm not gonna watch it again.
Yeah, it's really good. Like it's up there. I said it's probably one of my favorites, but like yeah. I mean, even just in general of being like a movie, there are some of the things that are like confusing a little bit, like especially walking away from it the first time being like, what? A little
Hmm.
bit, just kind of like, wait, I'm confused. So I'd probably give it like maybe like an 8.5, just because like I feel like that could have been a little bit clearer. Um,
Hmm.
and like there's yeah, just some rules, I guess.
Hmm.
I was just like, oh, it's connected to this movie. And those questions still being kind of like open-ended kind of made it a little confusing. So there's that. I mean, I obviously really like the themes and the morals that they're talking about in the story and how they tell it. And they do it in such a way, she does it in such a way that it's like it's fresh, it's really creative and interesting and fits so well with the story, and then also does it without like re-exploiting people in the way that like
Mhm.
historically is done in a lot of horror movies that are done by people with a different perspective, aka white men. Um, and so yeah, I really like that, and I think more people should watch it and be excited for more stuff for sure. So yeah, I'd probably give it like an 8.5. Definitely would love to see. I would love if they continued this, to be honest. Like I would watch it immediately. And
I
yes,
think
you
they
should join
should.
us.
I'm not gonna watch it, but I think they should continue it.
Yes, everyone should watch it just to watch Whitney watch a scary movie with us
Oh
tomorrow.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna
This
be
is a
looking
perfect
away
opportunity.
possibly a
You
lot,
guys,
but
you're gonna want to see it. Uh, but yeah, I think that's it for today.
hmm.
It's
Oh,
really,
recommendations?
oh yeah,
Uh,
everything I've mentioned is
hmm.
recommended.
Yeah. I mean, I don't watch scary movies, so my recommendations were pretty much just anything by Jordan Peele, and the original Candymans. So
Yeah. I would highly recommend Lovecraft Country. That is a
that's a good
TV
one.
show. It is on
Hmm.
HBO Max. It also features Jordan Peele as producer, but even more so, they actually got a bunch of Black historians to do a lot of the like fleshing out of like the details of stories and stuff. So it's like chef's kiss. It is amazing.
I didn't know he
One of my
produced
favorite
that.
TV shows out there right now. Would highly recommend that. Yeah, he's one of the producers of that one. I would
That
also
explains why I like it.
recommend Evil. Um, and that one I think, what is it? I think it's on it's either Apple TV or Paramount, one of those two. But it's got the guy that played Luke Cage, and it's really interesting because he plays like a priest, and then there's this lady that is a psychologist that diagnoses like oh my gosh, what is it called? And they diagnose like schizophrenia and like the really interesting like behavioral things like that. I can't remember
Hmm.
what it's called. But she's that kind of a doctor, and she's like a really well-known one. And so basically they end up working together to try and like see they take on these different cases of like, okay, well, do we think this is a medical thing or is it like a spiritual thing? Because in the show, the church like can't send a priest to do an exorcism unless they've ruled out all possible like medical things
Hmm.
similar to The Exorcist. And so it's like really interesting just to see it. And it actually is kind of scary. Like it scared me. So like it scared me and I wasn't scared when I watched Hereditary by myself in the dark. So like it's a little creepy,
Hmm.
but it's good. It's really good and really interesting if you are like a horror person. Um Yeah. I feel like I'm recommending a lot of TV instead of like movies, but I feel like we mentioned a lot of movies, so like
We did.
yeah.
We did. Most of which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Um, but another plug to watch on Discord with us tomorrow is the fact that Candyman isn't streaming um, for free on any of the major platforms. So if you watch on Discord with us, we're
It would
renting
be free
it
for
so you don't have
you.
to. Yeah.
Just kidding. You are helping us
Oh, that's true with the
screen
Patreon.
this movie.
You're
But
bringing the
even
film to
then,
others.
yeah, it's a collective. We're all splitting it.
Hmm. Maybe if I watch it
And
with a
you get
group of people, it
stickers.
won't be as scary.
And you
And you
get
get
stickers.
stickers. You get really cute stickers.
Really cute stickers that I personally made with my own two hands. It did cause me physical pain because I do not have a normal mouse. I had to use a mouse pad, and I don't know if you've ever used Illustrator, but for those of you that have, it is hard to use Illustrator and design with a mouse pad. So I'm just putting that out there. I did this for you all. So
come and join us on Patreon and Discord so we can have a lot more of these fun movie things. And yeah, um, I think that's all we have for today. So definitely tell us what you'd like thought about this movie. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, come join us on Discord and watch it with us. Uh, we can't wait to see what the discourse is about this movie with a larger audience.
We'll do
Um,
Team Serena, Team Whitney. Who likes scary movies? Who doesn't?
yeah, we'll do two separate teams. Yeah, and then, we're always wanting recommendations and just, we always want to talk about movies, regardless of if it fits into the category for our podcast or not. You can always DM us on Instagram or TikTok at Femnoir Podcast. Um, we're also on YouTube, and we'll start using that a little bit more frequently. We definitely did in season one, had to take a break for season two, but now that we're in season three, we're coming back with some more video content for you guys. Um, so feel free to interact with us there. Um, yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much, and look forward to the next one. Bye.
Bye.